Well, Naomi Watts has recently opened up about going through early menopause at the age of 36. The Aussie star aiming to shed light on a taboo subject to redefine the myths surrounding this stage of life.
Let's bring the director of her centre and Professor of Psychiatry, Jayashree Kulkarni in Melbourne. Professor, great to have you on. Now, this transition for Naomi Watts has begun much earlier in her life. How common is this?
Look, it's not that uncommon, and I think most people even, generally think that average menopause starts at 50. Well, it doesn't. The average menopause age that starts is about 43, 44, and of course Naomi was earlier, but it's not that uncommon.
There's greater awareness now around perimenopause too. Can you explain that for us? How does this change the menopause timeline?
Well, unfortunately, medical terminology starts to become obfuscating and make things more difficult. We need to think about it as a transition, and peri means around. So it's the beginning of the entry into menopause, but it really is not a separate condition, it's just a transition.
So the stage of a woman's life, it's more than just physical. We saw some things on there about mental health and anxiety and brain fog. What are those mental health systems to look out for?
Well, in fact, menopause starts in the brain, and that's the part that most people don't understand, because it starts with a sudden onset of depression in a woman who's never had it before, or a worsening of depression in someone who's had it and been treated well. Anxiety can be panic, brain fog, problems with concentration, irritability, hostility, a whole range of mood disturbances. That's the onset, and we forget about that. When we think about menopause, we all go to hot flushes.
Well, and another harsh myth is that a lot of women sort of take menopause as being the end of an era, kind of the end of their youth, and, you kind of put out to pasture. That was the long-held view around menopause. Men, though, get to be silver foxes, in the later stages of life. How do we change that stigma? Are you seeing that stigma is starting to sort of crumble?
I think we're seeing changes in all of it, in that there's a greater awareness of the problems that women can have, particularly mental health problems. But there's also an acknowledgement that old women have a lot to offer, and that, elderly people in general have a lot to offer. And so it's really important that we also get rid of the image of the very old person as the menopausal woman. It's a 45-year-old that we're talking about who has a lot to live and a lot to give. And so we are seeing a difference in the imaging and the body imaging, and of course you can't keep down good women.
And now that we're talking about this more and more, and that the medical industry is now starting to open up about the fact that this is a real thing that we should be discussing, and the patriarchy that's starting to move away. I guess a lot of people out there would be wondering, well, if I go into menopause or I'm perimenopausal now, how long on average does this last?
Look, the bad news is that unfortunately it's a long period. It can be 10 years, it can be 12 years, but it doesn't mean that there's terrible symptoms all the way through. It's quite fluctuating and of course very variable. So, many women just sail through menopause and really don't notice it. But some women really struggle and suffer.
There are a lot of women who say life on the other side of menopause is really great too. So that's some stuff to look forward to. Great to hear you speak some truth on the subject. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us. We appreciate it.